If you're thinking about selling your home in Houston, stop scrolling, because these 10 mistakes are the difference between your house sitting on the market for 90 days or selling in less than 2 weeks. I've seen every one of them firsthand, so let's break them down. The number one mistake I see is pricing your home based on what you think it's worth or what you need to get out of it, instead of what the comps actually support. Buyers care more about what similar homes nearby actually sold for. Sellers can sometimes get emotionally attached to their home, and so they think that when people come to see it that they should feel the same way they do, but buyers don't care about your renovations from 2019. Buyers and their agents also filter results by price range, so price too high and you're invisible to buyers who'd actually be interested at the right number, while buyers who do look assume something's off compared to similarly priced homes that show better. Homes that sit too long start collecting what we call the days on market red flag, the DOM. Buyers see a long DOM and assume that there's a problem with the house, or they use it as a leverage to lowball, which happens a lot, even after you eventually drop the price. Once you cut the price, buyers often wait to see if you'll cut it again before they jump in, and the eventual offers that do come in lower than if you'd priced it right the first time. Homes priced correctly from day one consistently net sellers more on average than homes that get chased down in price after sitting a long time. So price your home right. Number two is skipping pre-listing repairs. That leaky faucet, that flickering outlet, that wobbly handrail, buyers will find it during their showing. Fixing small stuff now avoids bigger negotiation headaches later. None of these individually are that big of a deal, but here's the thing. Buyers notice patterns. If they walk through and see 5 or 6 little things wrong, their brain starts assuming that there's bigger problems that they can't see. It's called deferred maintenance, and it makes buyers nervous, even when the house is structurally totally fine. Grab a notepad, walk through every room like you're a buyer, and write down anything that catches your eye. Then spend a weekend knocking it all out. Also, side note, deep clean it. Not a quick tidy up. I mean windows, baseboards, grout lines, inside the oven, behind the toilet, the works. A spotless house sends a message before a buyer even reads your listing description. It tells them this home has been taken care of. And a dirty one does the opposite. It makes buyers wonder what else they haven't been maintaining, even if the answer is nothing. Number 3 is not decluttering or depersonalizing. This is a big one. I love your family photos, but buyers don't. They need to picture their family there, not yours. Pack up the personal stuff before photos, not after an offer. I mean, clear your countertops, empty out half of your closets. Yes, even if it means renting a storage unit for a month. Pack away the family photos, the kids' artwork, the collections on the shelves. Here's why this matters so much. Buyers aren't just looking at your house, they're trying to imagine their life in it. And it's genuinely hard to do when every surface is covered with someone else's stuff. A cluttered room also just reads smaller than it is. Empty a room out and it can look 20% bigger than a cluttered room, just in the photos alone. I literally listed a home that had been listed by another agent, and all they did differently from the other listing was to declutter and clean the entire home, and it sold on the first day. This costs you nothing but time, and it's honestly the single highest return on this entire list. This one is, number 4 is really something for the agent. It's bad or no professional photos. 90% of buyers start online, looking for your home online. If your photos look like they were taken on flip phone from 2011, you're losing buyers before they even step through the door. And here's the thing, you can do everything else on this list perfectly, but if your listing photos are dark, crooked cell phone shots, buyers will scroll right past it online before they even consider booking a showing. In today's market, the listing photos are your first showing. A professional photographer costs a few $100s and it's worth every cent. As a listing agent though, I actually handle this item. I schedule the appointment, I meet the photographer at your home, and I pay for them as part of my realtor services. If you get an agent that takes iPhone pictures or asks you to send them pictures of your house, get a new agent. Number 5 on the list is ignoring curb appeal. First impressions happen in the driveway. Mow the lawn, trim the bushes, paint the front door if it's gross. It's the cheapest return on investment you'll get. This is your first impression, and it happens before a buyer even gets out of the car. Mow the lawn, trim back overgrown bushes, add fresh mulch to the flower beds, pressure wash the driveway and the front walkway, clean or repaint that front door, like I said, if it's looking tired. Maybe add a couple of potted plants near the entry. And if you're bold, paint your front door something cool, a cool color, yellow, red, something like that, teal. None of this is expensive. We're talking about a weekend and maybe a couple $100 in supplies, but it sets the tone for everything that happens next. If a buyer pulls up and the yard looks neglected, they walk in already looking for problems. But if it looks cared for, they walk in ready to fall in love. Number 6 is kind of controversial in my opinion. It's optional. It's not pre-inspecting the home. A pre-listing inspection puts you in control. You find the surprises first, not the buyer, 3 days before closing, when you have a zero leverage. This one's optional. It really is, but I recommend it. Get a pre-listing inspection. Here's the logic. If there's a real issue with the roof, your HVAC, your plumbing, or your electrical, you have 2 options. First, you find out about it now on your terms, or second, let the buyer's inspector find it later when you're already under contract and negotiating from a weaker position. A pre-listing inspection costs a few $100s or so, but it gives you control. You can fix the issue ahead of time, price it into your listing, or disclose it up front so there are no surprises. Surprises are what kills deals and what costs sellers thousands in last-minute renegotiations. Again, this one is optional and many realtors don't do it, but it's up to you. But some say the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. Knowing what's lurking ahead of time might be a good idea. I will say that we have a house under contract right now, and the seller did a inspection on his electrical system because that's really the only thing he hadn't updated in the house, and he had an on-site estimate of what it was going to cost to fix, and we disclosed it to anyone who asked. Several people asked, and we disclosed it. And when the inspection came back, they wanted a new panel, which we understood. We knew that was coming, but they wanted it at twice the price. So we fortunately had already had an estimate, and that helped us in our negotiation. It gave us leverage in our renegotiation. So it can be a good idea to get a pre-inspection listing. Number 7 in mistakes that people make before listing their house is DIYing the listing without a marketing strategy. This is also known as for sale by owner, or FSBO. I'm going to call it FSBO because I love that name. Selling on your own or with the wrong agent means missing MLS syndications, social reach, and the pricing strategy that actually brings multiple offers. I just had one that had multiple offers, and we priced that house perfectly. Without solid comps analysis, a FSBO seller's often over or underpriced, both of which cost money. Overpricing stalls the sale, and underpricing leaves cash on the table. Nobody wants to do that. No MLS access means missing the network that syndicates to Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, and all of the other ones. Buyer's agents may also be less likely to show a FSBO listing, which, in my opinion, is unethical, but, it happens. An experienced agent negotiates price, they negotiate repairs and contingency on your behalf. Selling your own home means negotiating directly with a buyer's agent whose full-time job is getting the best deal against you. Contracts, required disclosures, and inspection issues carry real liability if handled incorrectly. This is where FSBO sellers most often get burned after closing. Fielding calls, scheduling showings, vetting buyer qualifications, and coordinating inspections, appraisals is a part-time job most sellers underestimate. It takes time, and most people don't have that kind of time to do all this. And most importantly, studies show FSBO homes sell for less on average than agent-assisted sales, even after accounting for the commission. Number 8 is kind of a funny one. It's being present during showings. I get it. It's your home, but buyers clam up when sellers are standing there. Give them space to talk honestly with their agent. This one is so easy. The buyer will never be comfortable with the owner at home. They won't be able to talk freely about the property, and they feel like they're intruding. I mean, wouldn't you feel like you were intruding? Make sure everything's nice and tidy. Turn on all the lights, turn down the AC, and get out. Even if you have to get in your car and pull down the street and wait like a stalker, get out for the 20 or 30 minutes that they're there. If you stay, your house will forever be known as the one the weird guy stayed at. No one wants to be the weird house. Number 9 in the top 10 seller mistakes is not disclosing known issues. Trying to hide a past leak or foundation issue doesn't make it disappear. It just sets you up for a lawsuit later. Disclose it, price for it, move on. In Texas, where I am, sellers must disclose everything on a seller's disclosure notice covering known material defects like foundation, past water damage, roof problems, all the stuff I just listed. If a buyer discovers you knew about an issue and didn't disclose it, they can sue for damages, rescission of the sale, or repair costs, sometimes years later. Disclosure protects you, not just the buyer. Undisclosed issues that surface during inspection can often lead to buyers demanding bigger price cuts or walking entirely, losing your leverage you'd had if you was priced right from the start. So if you've got an issue, disclose it, and we'll deal with it. So we can either fix it ahead of time, or we can disclose it, and then there won't be any issues. But again, in Texas, it's legal. You have to disclose any deficiencies or defects. And number 10, underestimating closing costs and timeline. Between repairs, concessions, and time on market, sellers are often surprised by the true cost of selling. Budget for it up front so there are no surprises at the closing table. Sellers often forget costs beyond just the mortgage payoff. There can be title fees, there can be prorated property taxes, HOA transfer fees, attorney's fees, and typically covering the buyer's title policy in Texas. Although all of these are negotiable, or well, some of these are negotiable, it could impact your bottom line. If the seller was counting on a specific net number to fund their next purchase, this shortfall can derail the whole plan. A seller expecting to close in 30 days who ends up in a 45 to 60 day closing may make hasty concessions just to keep the deal moving, especially if they're financially tied to specific move out or move in date. If your timeline slips and your next home purchase doesn't line up, sellers can get stuck paying for temporary housing, storage, or carrying 2 mortgages. No one wants to do that. As an agent, I make sure I walk the sellers through a full net sheet, estimated costs and proceeds, and a realistic timeline. So ask your agent for a net sheet, or you can ask the title company for a net sheet. And I try to give a realistic timeline, but things do go wonky sometimes. I have had an actual closing that went awry and went about 45 days, and the sellers did have to get temporary housing. It all worked out in the end, but just make sure that you have a good idea of all the pitfalls and what can happen. All right. So those are the 10 mistakes I see sellers make over and over. Every single one of them is avoidable with the right prep and the right game plan. If you're thinking about selling a home in the Houston area, drop a comment or send me a message. I'll walk you through exactly what your home needs before it hits the market. And if this was helpful, hit subscribe. I've got more videos like this every week. I'm Binky Watkins, and I'll see you next time. Bye.